If you have used Netlify before to host an application, you have probably seen something like this, which is called a status badge or a deployment status badge. And this is something you can get from Netlify, which would show you like the last deployment was successful. And if the last deployment was failed, you would also see that here. And the interesting thing is that this badge is not a div, it is not a React component. If you come here, you can see that this is actually an image. I can also copy this link from here. When I paste this link here, you can see that this is actually an image. And this is not just Netlify. Different services offer this badge, which you can put on your repository or whatever document. For example, you can see this one shows deploy, failing, deploy, passing. This is a dynamic image. So I got really curious recently, how are these dynamic images created? After doing a lot of research, I learned how. So here you can see I have this dynamic image, which I link here, localhost 3000/status. And if I should come here to successful test and I make this 10 and I trigger a preview, you can see I now have success 10/10. I didn't have to change this link and then it's reflected on the image. So I'm going to show you how I was able to achieve this, but to be honest, the summary here is that I am using SVGs as the image. You know, you can construct SVGs in different ways. You can put text, change the colors, and all of those things. And SVGs can be constructed like a HTML document, sort of. Now, you cannot do the same thing with JPEG or PNG images. In that sense, you would have to generate the image, then send that image to the client. But here, we don't have to generate the image. We just have to construct an SVG, which creates a form of vector or whatever it is. I'm not very good with SVGs. And then we can send that to the client. If you're wondering how I created that SVG, well, I just came on here on Figma and then I drew the rectangle, wrote this text with my colors. Now for this group, I basically copy paste and copy as SVG. And then I came to this online SVG viewer. And if I should paste what I copied from Figma, this is everything that I copied. This is really long and you can see what I have here on the right. But then one thing that Figma does is that the text, this success text, is this part here, which is super long, and this part here is for the 10/10, and I didn't want it like this, so I had to change it to what I have here. So basically I replaced the part with the text. So yeah, I have this text with this style, and then I have success, and I can make that dynamic, and I have this text where I have 10/20. It kind of looks the same. It's not exactly what I have on Figma, but it gets the job done. And then here I have an Express server, and I actually run the server with nodemon app.js. Okay, now my server is running. And then here in my server, I have this function I call make status SVG. Let's just say I comment everything I have here, and I'm just going to return the SVG that I got from the online SVG viewer. So I'm going to paste this here. So this is what the function returns. And then here I can see when you make a get request to the status part, I can get the SVG here. So let me just remove this for now, just call make status SVG. This is going to return that SVG text, and then I can send this SVG to the client. But one notable thing that I'm doing here is that I'm setting the content type of the response to be the image/svg.xml type. So that way the browser or the client can treat that response as an image. Now, if I should come here, you'll see that this is currently broken. If I do it like this, I have my success 10/20. So this is the solution, sending SVG. And because you can construct SVGs in different ways, I can come here now to this function. I'm going to remove all of this, and I'm going to uncomment everything I have here. So basically what I'm doing here is I have total test, then I have the status. So if the successful test is not equal to the total test, then the status is failed, else the status is success. Then I have this object where I have colors and labels for the success, colors and labels for the failed. And then here in my SVG, I can interpolate the color based on the status. So I put that color here, and I also put that color here, and I can put the label here. And I also have this text element where I interpolate successful test over the total test. Say I have a successful test of 10. This is probably coming from like an API or database, whatever. So I can pass that successful test here. This will construct that SVG string, and then I can send the SVG to the client here. So now successful test is 10. So if I should change this and go back, we have 10/10. Now if I should make the successful test 5 is going to construct the SVG with the colors for that status and the label. So if I should come here and change this again, oops, if I put an S here, you see I have failed 5/10. So here I have a dynamic image that I never have to change, and it would always be showing me what the status of my successful test is. If I should also open this link on a browser, here on a browser you see we have failed 5/10. If I have 6 successful tests here, if I go back here and I refresh, I have 6/10. Let me zoom in. If I come here and I have 10 successful tests, if I come here and refresh, you can see I have success 10/10. Now, one thing to note when doing something like this is that you would have to turn off caching, which is why I had to set my cache control header here. And I also had to do this app.set etag, which I honestly do not completely understand, but this way I'm turning off caching so that the browser does not cache the image, because if the browser cache the image, if I have unsuccessful test, the browser will still be showing the cached version of 10/10 even when it's not really 10/10. So whatever server you're using, you definitely want to take note of turning off the cache. Again, I never have to change this URL. Just like in GitHub, I never have to come here to change this URL, and whenever I reload this page, it is going to reflect the current status of my Netlify deployment. The use case might be different, but I hope this gives you an insight into how status badges like these are created. If you enjoyed it, please give this video a like, share with others, and also subscribe for more videos like this.